Professor. How you doing? Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, CFAT?
Good morning, Professor.
Good
Doing
morning.
great,
How are
Professor.
you,
Thank you.
Jordan? How's everybody else? I see I have like 12 people currently in the Collaborate session. And let's check how many people are in the discussion board. Okay, let's see. Okay, I see 13 people. So that means we still need one person to join the Collaborate session, right? Um, so everyone must be aware that we are already into part two. I mean topic two, and the second the second practice test was already over. It was due last night, 11:59 last night. Um, and for your information, these practice tests are literally practice. They don't directly factor into your semester grade, but help. Uh, they can help boost the lowest exam scores if you are at risk of falling below B minus. So at this point, there's no way of knowing, what grade you will get because I haven't collected any data. In other words, we haven't administered any exam. Um, we haven't administered any exam yet. These are all practiced, right? And so this was already, due yesterday. Um, the first exam will be quiz one, and that will be administered. That will be when after we finish part two. I mean the topic two. Okay, and the topic two, financial statements. So the main lecture has already covered all the way to financial statements intro 7. Okay, including today. I mean today, I believe it's today's lecture is financial statements intro 6 and 7. So we still have more videos to come in financial statements. So, but this will be the way it is planned by October 6th. The last topic of the last video of topic 2 will be released by October 6th. So the first quiz, which is the first exam, will be after that. That's just a very reasonable expectation. Now, but we haven't wrapped up even in the Collaborate, right? Again, Collaborate session is not the main lecture. It's just a review. And we haven't even wrapped up. We haven't even finished, the first topic yet. So I want you to, I want to wrap it up today. So let's, and maybe not today because we have only 1 hour class today. So it might continue until Wednesday. But let's, let me give it the best shot. Okay, let me give it the best shot. And some people, I understand. Some people got annoyed apparently because every time there is a test, the get a head start message, get a head start reminder is automatically sent out, right? It's just a reminder, and it's automatically it's triggered by it's automatically set up to go out as a reminder. And I wonder, uh, that might sound like nagging, but that's what a reminder is. Reminder is supposed to be, you know, alarm when the alarm goes off in the morning, right? Obviously, it's not, pleasant. And alarm is like nagging, wake up, wake up, wake up, right? And obviously, but it is necessary, right? Sometimes, you don't taste only sweet, only sweet things, Uh, Medicine is not sweet. Medicine is bitter, but medicine is good for your body. Medicine is good for your body, and some people have allergic reaction to even hysterical reaction to an alert or a reminder, right? But you can't always hear things that are pleasant. I mean, if you want to hear only pleasant things, there can't be no alarm clock. Well, you'll have to smash the alarm clock. A reminder is, oh, and this is not the one. I'm sorry, I opened the. So in our last class, right? Um, so we discussed a lot about the Fed funds rate, which is the benchmark interest rate, uh, and I said Federal Reserve is the one setting the target for Fed funds rate, and I said it says the target, right? Not the um, and target rate means the actual rate may be different. And the actual market rate is of course determined by the market forces, and um, somebody I don't know. Okay. uh, uh, I don't know what you mean, Jason. I don't know if that was intended. I don't know if that chat was, for me or not. Um, yeah, whatever is, the. Okay.
It was for
So,
the book. Um, you have gave us
oh,
a
you
con.
mean, uh, oh yeah. You mean Tara, the McGraw-Hill's campus representative, right? Tara.
Yes.
Uh, yeah. Um, the I and in the meantime, over the last couple of weeks, I think there was some human resource change in McGraw-Hill. I think Tara is no longer the campus rep. There is a new person named Katie, but if you if you email her, they will all get connected, because they will have to if Tara left for another job or new position within the company, then they will transfer everything between each other. So, yeah.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
All righty. All righty. So where was I? Um, Now, the way the Federal Reserve, as I said, Fed funds market rate, Fed funds rate is changed by Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve raises or lowers the Fed funds rate, but it goes through the market system, right? Market system means they do it through the market operation. And market here means open bond market, right? Uh, Federal Reserve only sets the target rate, but they don't set the actual market rate, because literally the meaning of the word market means price is set only by demand and supply. Okay, price is set by only demand and supply. So um, uh, demand and supply in Fed funds market will be demand and supply in the Fed funds market will determine the actual Fed funds rate. It's also called effective rate, because effectively that is the rate in the market, in the Fed funds market. And if you think about it, when we say market, right, and the market mechanism and what demand supply does, generally you would think of price, because price is the result of demand and supply, right? The higher the demand, the price will go up, right? Of course, we have to assume that the supply is steady. Supply is held constant, and if the demand goes up, price will have to go up. If the demand goes down, the price will have to go down, right? But then, what does it have to do with the Fed funds rate? Now, I don't know if you've ever thought about it this way, but interest rate is also a kind of price, right? Isn't that right? Interest rate is also a kind of price. So interest rate is the price for what? Can anybody tell me? Interest rate is the price for what? Anyone? I hear a lot of static noise. I don't know if somebody
Can you
turned on
hear
the
me?
microphone. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying how interest rate is the price of I would say their services, I guess.
What services?
Um, Not exactly. Still need to look into that a little more.
Well, yeah, but think about it. It's a simple and very
Is it the
straightforward.
price of money?
Yes. Who said that? Please
Natalie?
raise your volume, please.
Oh, Natalie?
Natalie? Is that
Yes.
Natalie?
Miss De Leon?
And Natalie, what did you say? Please repeat.
Is interest rate the price of money?
Actually, price for borrowing money. Price
Right.
for borrowing money.
In the
Right? Think about it.
context
What
that
is?
you were talking of. Right, that's what I
So
meant.
pretty much it's the price of
Yeah.
borrowing.
I'm sure that's what you meant, Natalie. So Natalie, I'll give you 0.25 for that.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah, it is. Of course, you're paying interest for borrowing money. So it's the price for borrowing money, right? So then it is not difficult to understand that the interest rate is also a result of demand and supply, right? In the Fed funds market, right? Uh, and you might wonder, uh, only in Fed funds market? Look, but I said because federal funds market rate, Fed funds rate is the benchmark for all interest rates. So it's the baseline. It's basically the baseline for all interest rate. So once Fed funds rate is determined, then all other rates will depend on that. Okay, today is 27th, right? Uh, so, but you gotta, how does Federal Reserve affect that? And once again, Federal Reserve doesn't doesn't dictate the Fed funds rate. Although Federal Reserve sets the target rate, but the actual market rate will have to be, actual market rate is determined by the market forces, in other words, demand and supply. That means Federal Reserve will work through the market mechanism, right? So Federal Reserve will either increase or decrease the demand for Fed funds or federal funds, or they will either increase or decrease the supply of Fed funds. That way, uh, uh, through the market mechanism, through market system, Federal Reserve will try to bring the actual market rate, actual Fed funds market rate, which is also called effective rate, effective market Fed funds rate, close to the target, right? So it's not a point value. Fed funds rate is not a point value. It is a range of values, because it can be actual market rate can be somewhere between 0% and 0.25. Federal Reserve sets the target at between 0% and 0.25%, and the actual rate can oscillate every day because the rate changes every day, based on the demand and supply situation. So it fluctuates, right? Actual rate will fluctuate between that range of 0%, 0 and 0.25%. So that is called open market operation. Open market. So first of all, open market is not a difficult concept to understand. The market is open to everybody, right? That's what open market means. But what market? It's actually the bond market. Bond market. You might wonder, isn't that Fed funds market, federal funds market? No. First of all, federal funds market is not open to everybody, right? Federal funds market is open to the commercial banks only, right? So what is open to everybody is the bond market. So open market operation means, Federal Reserve goes into the bond market and they, through sale of bond or repurchase of bond, they try to change or affect the Fed funds rate. Now, bond market, first of all, open to anybody means, it's open to any individual investor or any institutional investor, right? And of course, I've been telling you, in the financial market, the size and the proportion of institutional investors is much greater, right? Individual investors are only a small fraction. I mean, in terms of capital, in terms of funds that they are moving, right? Institutional investors are handling basically, you might wonder, even individual investors like you and me, and how much money can we how much money can we mobilize? We can't mobilize more than probably a couple of $1 million at most. But institutional investors uh, can mobilize billions and billions of dollars, and even trillions of dollars. And institutional investors are basically, investment banks, asset management firms, even commercial banks, insurance companies, hedge funds, and the wealthy. You might wonder, if wealthy investors are, can't they? I mean, a billionaire, can't they not, mobilize a lot of? Yes, they can, but they are not directly investing. Their wealth is managed by the portfolio managers, who are part of the institutional, institutional investors, right? Wealthy people don't, necessarily, manage their own money. They have their portfolio managers, right? Warren Buffett himself, of course, Warren Buffett himself can, manage his own money, but otherwise, first of all, we have to understand then what a bond is. Okay, a bond is a standardized debt instrument. Okay, bond is a debt instrument with standardized features, so it can be easily traded in the market. So, debt instrument means it's borrowing, right? But when you think about borrowing, you would normally just think about the getting a loan from the bank. If you need, let's say $5 million, you're thinking of getting a loan from $5 million. And then in that case, the bank, the lender, will bear a huge risk to lend you $5 million. Of course, if your credit rating is excellent, if you have great income, if you have huge wealth, for them it's a less burden, it's a less risk. But no bank will be willing to lend you like something like $5 million if you don't have any assets to put up as collateral, if you don't have any consistent, good income, if your credit score is bad, no bank will be and even if you meet all the good criteria, it's still a burden. But companies, businesses don't need to borrow from the bank only. As an individual, you can only borrow from a bank, but businesses don't borrow from the bank. They can go to the bond market and sell bonds. Okay, the bond is literally, so it's a standardized in the sense that the face value or the par value is all $1,000. So if a company wants to borrow 10 million, right? They don't have to borrow from just one lender. They can sell about 10,000 bonds, because the face value is 1,000. 10 million, that 1,000 times 10,000, that's 10 million, right? But I said roughly about 10,000 bonds, not exactly 10,000 bonds. Why? Because the selling price of the bond is not 1,000, right? The bond face value, the par value is 1,000, and it's also called maturity value or redemption value. Now think about it. The reason it is called by so many different names is on the face of the bond, it says 1,000. So basically they will owe you 1,000. The company will owe you. If you buy one bond, no matter what the price is, they will owe you 1,000 at maturity. So it's called maturity value. It says 1,000 on the face of the bond, so face value. And it's called par value. That's the par value of the bond at the end. That means, selling price is not par value. It may be, it can be, but most of the times it's not. So if a company borrows 10 million, they sell about 10,000 bonds, about approximately, and 10,000 bonds can be held by different multiple buyers, right? So the lender isn't only one party. There can be multiple individuals, multiple investors, institutional or individual, domestic or foreign. It can be, and then if the maturity is 1 year, 1 year later, no matter at what price you bought it, they will pay you, 1,000, right? So that means the price you bought it can be below or above 1,000, right? Now, and for 1 year, they will pay interest. Okay, if the interest rate is, that's called coupon rate. So the interest that the bond pays is called coupon, right? Bond pays coupon interest. And if the coupon rate is 10%, if the coupon rate is 10%, it pays $100 a year. Okay, so normally bond pays interest twice a year. So that means each time, every 6 months, and at the end of each 6 months, you'll get half of 1 year rate. So you get 5% every time. So $50 at the end of the first 6 months and $50 at the end of the second month. And then the bond matures if it is 1 year, if the maturity is 1 year. And then, so at the end of the second 6 months, you'll get $1,050, right? That's how it works. But but just for simplicity's sake, just for our thought experiment, let's say a bond pays interest at the end of the year, and we know at the end of year 1 you'll get $1,100. Okay, maturity can be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 15 years, 20 years, maximum of 30 years. Okay, maximum. There is hardly any bond that has maturity beyond 30 years. During the war times, they like back in World War I, World War II, they sold what they call war bonds. War bonds had very long. Some war bonds had very long maturity. During the Napoleonic era, right? When Napoleon was, emperor of the French, and he waged war against all Europe, and French government sold war bonds, and those war bonds had maturity of even like 100 years. And French government sell bonds too, not just the companies, right? And they sold bonds, to raise capital. They need to raise funds, to support, the military production, right? War efforts. So let's take a look at the application of bond. The bonds can be classified as, depending on who issued the bond, issuer and the maturity, right? First, if the issuer is the federal government, it's called a treasury bond. Treasury securities, first of all. Securities is a collective name. Securities is a collective name because it can be, depending on the short term, depending on the maturity, they are called by different names. Okay, if the maturity is less than 1 year, short-term bond, right? It's called treasury bill. It's called a treasury bill. If the maturity is between 1 and 10 years, it's called a treasury note. And if the maturity is between 10 and 30 years, it's called a treasury bond. So the bond is the name that reserved for long-term borrowing. Okay, corporations, businesses borrow also. For corporate bond, short-term bonds are called commercial paper. Commercial paper. Maturity is under 1 year. So they are generally short-term borrowing, such as for 30 days, 60 days, right? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. For commercial paper, they generally don't have more than 90 days. I mean, for maturity. For commercial paper, generally, it's under 60 days, generally. For treasury bill, usually they don't 30 days, okay, fine. 30 days, 60 days, that's fine. But they don't call it 90 days, 90. They have instead 13 weeks. They call it 13 weeks. If you think about it, 13 weeks is like 3 months. But anyway, I listed, and the corporate bond is, I said, bond is a term reserved for long-term debt instrument. So for corporate bond, if it has maturity above 1 year, everything is called bond. And I put not applicable here, but actually what I mean here is very long-term. This kind of debt. This kind of classification is not applicable for corporate bond. Corporate bond can have, like 30-year maturity. They're just called bond. But what I'm saying is this classification, long-term, very long-term, is my own classification, right? Because for Treasury, there is a need for separating. Putting the time, drawing the line between 10 years and, drawing the timeline, the line on 10 years, drawing the line on 10 years and separating some maturity below 10 years and maturity above 10 years. So I needed a new classification. But then, for corporate bond, they don't have, they don't have that kind of classification. It's just called bond. Anything longer than 10 year, longer than 1 year, it's just called bond. And also, municipal governments. Municipal governments are what? State governments and local governments, right? Municipalities. Municipal governments also sell bonds. Municipalities also sell bonds. I didn't put it here because municipal bonds have different face value. Municipal bonds have $5,000 face value. So, and you may remember, I don't know if you remember, but around like 2010, 2012, they can go bankrupt. These municipal governments can go bankrupt. City of Bridgeport in Connecticut, they went bankrupt in the 90s. Okay, and state government of California went bankrupt in around 2010, 2012. And at the time, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor of California, and he was on TV commercial. It wasn't, like, commercial for, what should I call it? Infomercial. No, it's not infomercial. It was basically, a public announcement type of thing, and he was, pleading to everyone to buy. Uh, so, uh, California state government was selling off some of its assets. Why? Because they went bankrupt. They need to pay the bondholders. Um, they didn't have money. Money to pay off the bondholders for governments must come from tax revenue. But tax revenue wasn't enough, right? So they borrowed more than the tax revenue. So he was on a campaign. Arnold Schwarzenegger was on a campaign to plead to the audience to uh, uh, buy the excess government assets, state government assets. They were auctioning off state government assets, right? So that was, that wasn't that long ago. Um, it was about 10 years ago, so should I call it, a long time ago? uh, so depending on, who is the entity, right, that sells the bond, it can be, either Treasury securities and or corporate bond. Um, I'm not calling it corporate securities, right? Because the collective name for corporate bond is not securities. Why? Because securities mean both uh, stocks and bonds, right? But then for federal government, for governments don't sell stocks. I mean, governments are not businesses; they don't sell stocks. So securities can mean bond for governments, bond only, but not for um, and also depending on whether they pay interest or not, it can be classified as coupon bond or zero coupon bond. And you might wonder, I mean, isn't it when you lend money, isn't it only natural, isn't it only fitting and proper that they pay you interest? Yes, of course. Otherwise, why would you lend money? I mean, if I lend $1,000 without receiving any interest, and at maturity, if I just get my principal back, only $1,000 back, what is the incentive? There's no incentive to lend money, right? But then, how is this possible? Why do they? How come? Uh, can how can there be something like a zero coupon bond? If it is a zero coupon bond, meaning it doesn't pay any interest, instead of paying interest, they sell it at discount. They sell it at deep discount, meaning um, um, one good example is 30-year U.S. Treasury zero coupon bond. 30-year U.S. Treasury zero coupon, and it commonly goes by the name U.S. Savings Bond. U.S. Savings Bond, and you can buy them from the bank. U.S. Savings Bond sells for about $500. I mean, if you buy it, but with 30-year maturity, you have to wait 30 years. 30 years later, they will pay you $1,000. That means the holding period return, 30-year holding period return is 100%, right? 30-year holding period return is 100%. annually, then you can using the geometric average, you can it's now it's going to be like gross return is 200%. Gross return is 200%. So 200 raised to 1/30, close parenthesis, minus 1. Oh, I have to minus 1. It's almost like oh, it's 200% already. So it's percentage. It's like 0.2%. Oh no, let me do it this way. I think I should have done it like 2 raised to 1/30, close parenthesis, minus 1. Yes, it's about 2%, 2.3% a year. 2.3%. 2.3% is better than, obviously, clearly better than, the CD interest rate, or, these days. So that is, a good example of a zero coupon bond. Once again, zero coupon bond sells at discount because they don't pay any interest. Instead of paying interest, right, you have huge capital gain, 100% capital gain. But most bonds are coupon bonds, and then so we need to understand what bond is before we understand the bond market operation, open market operation, right? Also, bonds can be classified by whether they sell above par value or below par value. If they sell above par value, if the selling price is above par value, it's called premium bond. And if it sells below par value, it's called discount bond. Zero coupon bond is automatically discount bond because it sells below par value. And the discount bond, premium bond, so in case of premium bond, the par value is 1,000, but it sells for 1,100. It's selling for 1,100. That's a premium bond. So you might wonder, if it sells for 1,100, at maturity, I get only 1,000. So don't I get the capital loss? Yes, capital loss. You get, there's a capital loss. But then you have interest for, 1 year, right? So whether your capital loss is clear, it's $100, but if interest is coupon interest is greater than 100, then it more than offsets the capital loss, right? Eventually you have positive return. Now the discount bond, par value is 1,000, it sells for 900. That's discount. But why are some bonds discount bond? Why are some bonds selling at discount? And why are some bonds selling at premium? Well, it's because of the coupon rate and the prevailing market rate. Once again, coupon rate is what the bond pays, and it has nothing to do with the prevailing market rate. I mean, I'm not saying it has completely nothing to do with it, but market going rate in the market, right? Going rate in the market and the coupon rate maybe, most of the times are different. They may be the same sometimes by pure coincidence, right? But some bonds, and think about it, it's understandable. Now, the bonds of the companies that have low credit ratings, right? Bonds of the companies that have low credit ratings, they won't be able to borrow money if they pay just about the going rate in the market, right? They cannot. So to attract investors, then what do they have to do? They will have to offer higher interest, higher coupon interest, right? And it's just like when you have a good credit score, uh, the lender doesn't charge high interest to you when they lend because you're a high quality borrower. You are a low risk, and if they charge high interest, then you can always take your business to some other bank, right? A simple idea. So companies are borrowing here. Companies are the borrowers, and you are the investor, or you are the lender in this case. You are the lender. So if the company has great credit ratings, they don't have to pay high interest. But if but they may sometimes, between themselves, amongst the same, um, among the same companies of the same credit rating, some companies may just offer higher coupon rate to attract more, investors. But anyway, here the symbol I subscript C it's clear. It's the coupon rate. It means the coupon rate. I subscript C, coupon rate, and R stands for prevailing market rate. So if coupon rate is greater than the prevailing market interest rate, then the demand for such a bond will be very high. A strong demand will push up the price, right? Strong demand will push up the price. Hence, it becomes a premium bond, and it's exactly the mirror image. If the coupon rate is less than the prevailing market rate, then there will be low demand, and low demand pulls down the price. Okay, so that's all the time we have today. That's all the time we have today. So if you have any questions, please, reserve it for this Wednesday. I will see you guys this Wednesday, and okay, well, so we'll have to call it a day. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you, Professor.
All right, Jason, you take care now. Take care, everyone, and I will see you guys all.
Have a good one, Professor.
All right, you too, Jordan. Take care, everyone. I'm signing out. Stop recording.